Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope you're good. Welcome to another day of the live stream. I was going to live stream today, but you know what? Let's do it. Let's live stream. Um, let's live stream. Let's keep it a little bit positive because gotta sometimes keep it a little positive to lighten up the mood, to get you um, in a better mood, right? Thank you for joining me, everyone. Thank you for joining me live on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. Thank you for joining me. You know, sometimes people are difficult and they want things their way. And then it's like the Iran war, right? Trump didn't consult with anyone, but he made a decision and he went ahead and went in. And then he says, "Oh, can everyone help with the situation?" And now all of a sudden he's asking other countries to help with the situation. All right. But let's keep it positive, everyone. Let's keep it positive. Zoran Mandani is in is in New York. He's having a lot of success, according to the people that support him. He's been rolling out a lot of programs, and so. But the thing is that Zoran won, but a lot of Democrats are counting on the midterms in order to be able to challenge the Trump administration. My view on that is the same thing how they counted on Kamala Harris winning the presidency in order to challenge the status quo or status. But people that don't fall for that, right? They want actual material change, right? People want material change in their conditions before they agree to support anything, right? People actually want to see change in whatever they're doing. Once they see the real life change, then they support it, right? And so Democrats are so happy that they won certain elections, right? So today they won a big election in the state Senate in Florida, which was a position, a district that went for Trump heavily, right? Right. It was a area that went for Trump heavily, right? So today they were so happy that they won the state Senate seat, but sometimes you gotta make it light it up, right? You gotta lighten it up, right? You gotta lighten it up and make it fun. And so this is what Zoran is doing here in this video. He's lighting it up, making it fun for people to watch him, right? He's making it fun for people to watch him. All right, so let's watch this video where he is along with the Department of Consumer Services, Consumer Protection Services, and he's basically uh, had a huge settlement where the employers had to pay the workers back wages, and they were like pretty much not paying the workers the wages they were supposed to be paying them. And so
WP to announce some very exciting news. What do we have to tell people today? Yeah, so more than 800 New York City workers are going to get checks, or they're going to get money deposited in their account. Today, we're announcing 3 different enforcement actions from DCWP. One of them is against Dunkin' Donuts and Taco Bell for not giving workers predictable schedules. One of them is against Theory, the retailer, same issue, not giving workers the schedules that they can predict, plan their lives around. And the third is a lawsuit we're filing against a franchisee in Staten Island, Dunkin' Donuts franchisee, also not giving the workers predictable schedules or protected time off.
So how much money are we talking about that you're announcing in settlement today?
Yeah, so we're talking about almost $2 million back to workers, mostly fast food workers, more than 800 of them across New York City, and also a lawsuit against Dunkin' franchisees to get more money back.
So now, before we get a little bit more into this, I think it's only fair that we should try some of the food on offer at City Hall's first ever mukbang. Here we are. Where are you going to start with?
Well, I have this Crunchwrap Supreme has been calling my name.
Okay.
This is great. New York. It's good for on the go, easy to eat. Okay. See, it's a pretty big one. I'm going to give it a try.
Please.
All right.
Here we go.
I don't want to be like that McDonald's CEO, you know? It's pretty good, though.
Pretty good. All right.
Try it.
I'm also going to go for the Crunchwrap Supreme.
I mean, look, for the first lunch we've been able to sit down to in weeks, it's filling, got some cheese in there. I'm
give it like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10.
I mean, I'm eating more. I'm going to upgrade it to an 8 out of 10 for Crunchwrap Supreme.
Thank you to the workers who made this.
So they're basically saying that it's worth paying the workers what they need and deserve to be paid. And this is a win. This is definitely a win where Zoran is running a pro-worker administration. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's pretty much running a pro-worker, city government agency where they're trying to help and resolve issues that would never resolve. So that's a big issue in New York City, where the workers are often, the laws are not respected, right? New York City has a lot of protections for workers, but a lot of times the laws are not enforced, and so it makes the laws moot and not exist, right? It makes the laws not exist because once you allow an employer to constantly break the law, then it's as if the law does not exist at all, right? It's the equivalent of making the law not exist. So in this instance, Zoran is eating the food from the employer that exploited the workers and wasn't following the rules that the city has passed for its workers, right? That's exactly what it is that if there's no one enforcing it, then the law doesn't exist, right? And so we got to applaud any government agency that fights for the workers to be treated with dignity and respect, right? In the workplace, especially. Because we know that a lot of the workplace rules are left over from a time when workers didn't have rights. They're really trying to roll back a lot of the protections that were passed. They're really trying to roll them back. And it's been a while where they've been not respecting the laws of the city. And so what's the point of being in a blue state, in a blue city, where they're not following the laws, in a union town where a lot of the workers are not being protected or don't have union representation? And when they do have union representation, a lot of times it's not the optimum amount of of protection from the bosses or the people that make the decisions, right? That affect workers' health, affect workers' livelihood. So, in the end of the day, the most important thing is that we have a pro worker administration that's not going to back down when it comes to the protections of city and state workers, right? So that's the most important thing. Hit the follow button, the like button, hit the share button. If you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Substack, if you're on Instagram, hit the like or share button. Um, hit the share or like button because there's too much going on. We're going to cover so many topics. I'm going to jump around and let me know if I'm jumping too much because I'm jumping around on different topics that not only affect workers, but affect all people, not just in New York City, but across the country. A lot of people are frustrated with the state of a lot of entities. And so now I just went live on TikTok and I'm just loving the fact that we're holding businesses accountable to make sure that they're paying the workers what they're supposed to pay them. Because at the end of the day, the businesses are profitable. And then, but the owners are double dipping, finding a way not to pay taxes, finding a way not to follow these rules. And then they get upset when they get caught, right? That's the main issue. They get upset when they get caught. Good night. Good night to everyone. Good night. Good night. Right? Good night. Good night. Good night. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hit the like button, hit your share button. And sometimes I'm wondering if people are listening to what I'm saying, but I really want to listen to people, right? I want to listen to you, the people, right? Today, I mean, the country is in utter disarray, right? This gets me crazy or drives me crazy how they have ICE agents along TSA workers, but the TSA workers are not being paid and the ICE agents are being paid, right? And the ones that are working hard are usually the TSA, right? And so they're trying to make deals. They're trying to make deals, but they can't agree on how to address and solve this partial government shutdown. Or every side is digging deep and trying to protect their own interests. This is in Washington, D.C.
And the partial government shutdown and also fund the Department of Homeland Security. With a sudden sense of urgency comes, airports are now really being snarled by long security lines, and more than 450 TSA agents have quit their job altogether. These workers aren't getting paid and are struggling to pay rent and meet other critical expenses like buying groceries and paying for childcare. It's not the first time that these agents have been put in a position. TSA workers went without pay during the record-long 43-day full government shutdown last fall. DC News Now's Jan Maurice Say is speaking with a TSA agent about being forced to make some tough financial decisions.
Here at DCA, we did see some ICE agents near the TSA area. When it comes to travelers, getting through TSA is pretty smooth at this time. But when it comes to TSA workers, they say it's harder and harder to show up for work every day, and they say they need to be paid now. As the partial government shutdown continues and TSA workers are working without
pay, they're upset, right? They're working without pay. and they're upset that they're not being paid, right? The TSA agents are not being paid while they're working alongside ICE agents that are being paid their full salary, full benefits. Um, they're pretty much, uh, it's kind of insulting, right? It's kind of insulting that one group of workers is getting full pay while the other group is not getting any pay. And a lot of them are calling out sick. A lot of them are frustrated because this is not the first time they haven't been paid, right? It's not the first time. So imagine you're now surviving without a paycheck. Once again, you're stuck without a paycheck. And the interesting part is that the Walmart CEO, one of the Waltons, the Walmart heir to the to the Walton family, um, put out ads in the newspaper trying to pressure um, politicians to pay the TSA workers, right? To make sure that the TSA workers were paid. Um, she put full page ads and to pressure the government to actually pay people for the work that they're doing. And so at this time, they're not being paid. And that's just a reality of the political times, right? Right. And as a result, um, uh, Delta Airlines sent Congress members to the back of the airport security line, right? So, according to several news sources, um, Delta Airlines is basically canceling a program that gives um, congressional people, allows them to skip the line, and they bypass standard security, and they move up. Therefore, they won't be subjected to the crowds. So now they suspended the program, saying that uh, the decision by Delta also follows Senate action on legislation aimed at ending special treatment for lawmakers at airports, reflecting a broader push to align their travel experience more closely with that of ordinary passengers. By scaling back the escorts and line skipping arrangement, Delta is clearly signaling that it intends to treat congressional travelers more like other high status customers who rely on their Sky Club status and trusted traveler programs to make the airport life easier. Delta's move at the time when airport security staffing and wait times are under scrutiny could be a practical step toward restoring confidence that the system is not tilted in favor of those in power. So, are they fuming? I mean, they're going to have to ride, congressional people are going to have to ride along with regular people in the airplane and also um, not be, not have a VIP pass or be moved to the front, right? Thank you for joining me, everyone, right? Thank you for joining me. Um, so let's keep talking. Right? Let's keep talking. And this is a big story too. Um, in the New York Times case, the judge ordered the New York Times, the Department of War, Department of Defense to allow the media access to the Pentagon. And so the response was of Hegseth. His response was a classic Trump response. he just gonna kick the media out of the Pentagon because they've been causing too much problems, right? So he decided he's just gonna kick all of the media out. So what can we do, right? Hit the like button, hit the share button, everyone. Let's listen to what they have to say about this madness, that the media is very important for the First Amendment in this country. The media is part of the First Amendment because the founding fathers of this country thought it was one of the most important amendments. Is the most important amendment, starting the Bill of Rights, which is freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and so they pretty much blocked the New York Times from the building, and now they said they're going to close it. They're going to close the press office in the Pentagon, and they're not happy with the press either. They've been reporting negatively about the Iran war. They've been reporting negatively of Epstein and the Epstein case. They've been reporting negatively on a lot of issues. And Trump blames the media for his soaring popularity numbers. He feels like it's the media's fault for his numbers being low, not the decisions he has made recently, not the Iran war, but the media, the way they've been portraying it. He feels like they've been making him look bad and asking too many questions and meddling a little bit too much and leaking and
agency for a long time. You wrote beautifully about it. Talk to us about this latest step, but why also it's so important at a time of war when the Secretary of Defense and his press briefings are full of bluster and very little actual information.
I'm so glad you asked. I'm one of the journalists.
So they kick all the journalists
out. At a time
out.
of war, the Department of Defense is removing media offices from the Pentagon. A spokesman said yesterday an area of the building known as Correspondence Corridor, which reporters have used for decades to cover the DoD, will close immediately. The move comes after a federal judge ruled on Friday that a restrictive new press policy attempting to limit journalists at the department is unconstitutional. The New York Times sued the Pentagon last year, claiming the new rules violated constitutional rights to free speech and due process. A judge agreed and ordered the DoD to restore credentials to journalists that refused to follow the new guidelines. The Pentagon is appealing that decision, and this new move, Nancy, is perceived as a way to try to, certainly break the spirit of the ruling, if nothing else, by kicking their correspondents out entirely, so they wouldn't have to, go along with what the judge had to say. So you wrote when the correspondents were initially moved out of the Pentagon. You've covered that agency for a long time. You wrote beautifully about it. Talk to us about this latest step, but why also it's so.
AI can turn your lights.
See, so it's something that has driven a lot of people crazy, right? The fact that he kicked out a whole sector of the press, out of the building is alarming. And so people are not alarmed, or they just don't say nothing, or they just not alarmed, or they just I'm not sure what's going on with people. For real, I'm not sure what's going on with people. Why they don't care, or is it that they're not informed, or is it that they're not 100% aware of how things are moving? I mean, what's the main issue? Is it that people are living too busy lives, or they don't watch news as much? They only we're like in a world where everyone's just fighting each other, so busy, fighting each other, right? That we don't know what's happening in the world, or we're not informed of the reality of the world, right?
At a time of war, when the Secretary of Defense and his press briefings are full of bluster and very little actual information.
I'm so glad you asked. I'm one of the journalists who refused to sign that and was among those who left on October 15th. And the ruling was quite clear that the rules that they were proposing violated the Constitution, that they should be removed. And the Pentagon responded by saying, we're actually going to come up with different kinds of restrictions. We're going to close spaces. We're going to move reporters to an annex to the building, and obviously violating the spirit of it. And you saw from the New York Times in a statement today that they interpreted it the same way and plan to go back to court. But the relationship between this is not just about the reporters in the building, but really about war itself and the conduct of war. As you note at the press conferences that have happened since this war started, the questions are picked.
Because you'll be able to track and report on any issues or anything that happens, across the country or in different bases. You're able to right away report on it and with breaking news, be able to hear directly from the military. And at this point, by kicking them out of the Pentagon, we're in a different territory, right? We're in a different territory. It's another court order that the administration ignores and chooses not to follow. And so the news agencies that are willing to push back have become the target of the administration and have become bullied, right? If you want to use the playground example, they've become the bullied, right? And they've been pushed around by the government.
By the department, from journalists that they've solicited to come to the building and cover it. It's very hard to ask follow-ups. Those of us who didn't sign the agreement have to yell questions to get them. And we're not getting a very basic understanding of this war. I'll give you an example. The United States keeps saying that it's destroyed 90% of Iran's ballistic and drone capability.
Yeah, they keep saying
and yet
that.
We've seen them still aggressively targeting Israel and Gulf allies. There's no format to ask the question for why that's happening, because the space that we're in is so limited and the press conferences are so controlled.
So they basically not allowing questions from the press. They're not allowing the generals to answer questions. They're not allowing the top brass from interacting with the press. That's pretty much prohibited. So we're living in a different world right now. Believe it or not, we're living in a different world under different circumstances. And so what are we going to do? Fight back. Or that's what people say, right? And Democrats are a little bit too happy, right? Democrats are running around a little bit too happy. They feel like they got it under control. They feel like they got everything under control. They know what they're doing. And no one else knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They're going to win back. That they feel like they're going to win back the Democrats. They're going to bring back the independents. they're going to win this midterm election simply because they're just better than the Democrats, right? Wishful thinking, right? Wishful thinking. So let's hear from the leader of the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, which holding these press conferences over and over, you're not winning anyone, right? You're not winning people over if you could just keep playing the same game, doing things the same over and over and over and expect different outcomes. You cannot expect the outcome to change if your strategy doesn't change, right?
Elections are administered by states and localities, and each state and locality has the ability to determine what is the most appropriate form of voter identification that should be required for their citizens to participate in voting in that state. New York State has very strong voter identification laws, which I support, and which does facilitate voting that allows for maximum participation by citizens, while at the same period of time ensuring that the elections are free and fair. This is a states' right issue. What happened to the days when Republicans actually supported states' rights? These people are phony. And the example right now, amongst many, is the fact.
Wow. Good job, Hakeem Jeffries. You're going to woo a lot of voters. You're going to woo a lot of voters with your speech. So inspirational, so classic, so good that every voter is just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to vote Democrat because of the speech that Hakeem Jeffries gave. That's not happening, Hakeem. And this is the best you could do. This is the best resistance you could do. This is the most pushback you can give. You don't have any more pushback than this. Where's
that for years Donald Trump has been railing against voting by mail, only to turn around and vote by mail.
Oh, he voted by mail. That's it. This is a smoking gun. So now, don't support the SAVE Act because Trump voted by mail. I mean, are you dealing with kids or are you dealing with adults? This was the smoking gun. This was what you had a press conference about, that Donald Trump voted by mail. And then you wonder why Democrats are getting their butts beat. And all they can say is, we won a state Senate race in Trump's Florida. And that's it. You won the whole argument. Voters are going to flock to you. Voters are going to trust you only because you gave this speech.
In the special election that's taking place today in Florida. That's king-like behavior. Rules for me that don't apply, but not for thee. That's his position.
And that's it. He inspired us all. Hakeem Jeffries inspired us all with this great independent-minded speech that is going to get people on the Democratic side. It's not happening. It's not happening to Hakeem Jeffries. You got to step up your game. You got to step up your game, right? Other people are stepping up the game more than you are, right? And they're not even politicians. Let me see. I see Hassan Piker. He stepped up his game, and he's doing way more resistance than even the Democrats. They won one seat. They won several seats that were smaller seats. They also lost seats. That doesn't mean that they won't lose against Republicans in the midterm, right? These are just temporary wins, not full-fledged. They just won in the primary, right? They just won in the primary. They didn't really win in the whole open seat, right? Okay. Let's see. Did this one. Okay. So this is all you could clap back on, right? That's the biggest thing you could clap back on. And Drop Site News reported this, what Newsmax was going crazy tonight. They had a whole segment on the Havana hypocrites, on how the left are hypocrites, how Hassan Piker is a hypocrite, how Code Pink are hypocrites, how these activists stayed in Cuba in 5-star hotels, how they were living large in Cuba, and they weren't even there, right? Why did Newsmax send a reporter there?
Dropside News reporter Ryan Grimm also traveled to Cuba as well, reporting on all this. He's seen in this photo here. And Ryan joins us tonight, and it's good to have you back on the show.
Was that a mistake of him coming on the right-wing media show? Was that a mistake of Ryan Grimm for showing up to the right-wing media? But, I mean, you can't hide from these people. You just got to confront them, right?
So, the Trump administration is trying to end a 70-year regime. It looks like these guys, along with you there, are trying to help it survive. Am I missing something?
Wait, they're trying to do what?
Trying to help this regime survive.
Who is?
Piker, most of the people there. I'm wondering if yourself, along with them, are included in that.
Yeah, the group that went along brought about 50 tons worth of medical supplies and solar panels. That's right.
Medical supplies and solar panels, and a lot of sympathies for the regime that controls the country, I imagine.
So let me try to help out your viewers a little bit here.
Right.
How do you feel about the fact that when Americans travel to a foreign country, in this case Cuba, they are told specifically a list of hotels that they are allowed to stay in another country?
I went through it because when I went and stayed there, it was the same. I stayed in an Airbnb. I think if you have, if our country's trying to squeeze, our country's trying to.
What do you think of that?
I think our country's trying to end a regime that's been torturing people for a very long time, and they don't want to fund it.
Well,
they don't want us funding it by paying money to a communist-owned entity like a hotel.
And the hotels are owned privately by American companies or people that are connected to the American government. It's not profiting the Cuban government. You're not allowed to stay in any place that could help the Cuban government or the Cuban people directly. So the journalist really has to redo his research. And the Airbnb cannot host 600 people. One Airbnb cannot host 600 people. There's very limited amount of Airbnbs that are allowed, right? Very limited. So he's being very disingenuous with this.
So if their system of government is so awful, why not just let it fail on its own? Why do we have to blockade them? And how do you think,
they won't leave. They don't have elections. They won't leave power.
How do you think the United States economy would do if we cut off fuel for 3 straight months? No fuel has basically gotten into Cuba since the Venezuela operation.
Yeah, but I was there in 2019, Ryan, and it was still a horribly impoverished country. We're cutting off fuel to try and get this leadership out. Get them the hell out of there because they won't leave. They won't have an election. They won't leave.
Why do you care about like who's in charge in Cuba? Who elected you to do that? It's such a bizarre. Like there aren't enough problems in the United States here for you to worry about. Like
that's another side of it.
Really, like I can't even get my mind to a place where I would think it's my call. Like who runs Cuba? Who runs Haiti? Who runs Mexico? Who runs Iraq? Who runs Iran? Like
that's a fair.
I mean, that's fair, right? It's not the call of the United States to decide who gets elected or who runs for office in another country. Even here, the government shouldn't decide who should run for office or who shouldn't. It should be the American people that decide who runs the government, right? It shouldn't be people within the government to decide who's going to run the next phase of the government or the next administration, right?
That's a fair criticism. That's a fair criticism. But I mean, do you think it's better for do you want this regime to continue to run this country against the wishes of the people
It's not
that
up
are
to
all
me.
impoverished?
It's not up to me. I live in Washington, D.C. I vote in Washington, D.C. elections, and I vote in federal elections. Where do you live?
You live in that's fair.
Where do you live?
I live in New York.
So,
And it's not.
why should you vote? Why should you like? What do you have to do with Cuba?
Well, I think the prosperity of that country that's only 90 miles away from our border can't be a bad thing. And I'm just saying, what I'm asking you is,
then why not let them import oil?
It's fine. It's not America first. Let's put it there. But do you think that regime should be running the country?
Why does it bother you if Mexico sells oil to Cuba? You live in New York. In what world is it a New Yorker's responsibility to stop Mexico from selling oil to Cuba?
That's okay. Fair criticism right there. My other.
Why they're choking out Cuba, right? They're choking them out, full throttle, choking Cuba out, not letting them thrive. It's bizarre.
And my question to you is, why do you care? Why did you travel there? Why did you? If you don't care, why did you travel there to try and support the regime?
I'm a journalist, and the United States is literally killing people. We are killing people. I toured 2 hospitals. One was a pediatric hospital.
Yep.
We implemented a new rule in February that says that if you're a private business, you can import oil, you can import fuel. So the hotel where we were required to stay is allowed by the United States government to have fuel. Hospitals, because they have a publicly run healthcare system, are not allowed to have fuel. I heard a lot of people complaining that the hotel still had power, but the hospitals didn't. Not understanding, apparently, that it is a U.S. rule that blocks the hospitals from getting fuel. I toured the pediatric hospital. You know what the nurses and doctors there told me? They said when the power goes out, they immediately turn on their phone lights and race to the babies on ventilators.
Let me ask you this,
because there's a gap.
And
hold on.
I understand.
Hold on
we're killing babies with
There's a gap between when the power goes out and when the generator kicks in. That can be up to like 5 or 6, 7 minutes. A baby can die in that time on a ventilator. So they have to take their phone, turn the light on, race, and hand pump the ventilator. Because the United States has decided that Mexico can't sell oil and fuel to Cuba. What does that have to do with the United States?
That's fine. If you want to say it's not America first, that's fine. But let me ask you this. How many tens of thousands of people have died over the last 30, 40 years as this country has?
Yeah, it shouldn't be the baby's fault. It shouldn't be babies on ventilators' fault. It should be whoever is doing this. We shouldn't be blocking. Right, because if we're fighting against communism, so now we're saying that the government can control the fuel. So the government of the United States can control the fuel, but the government of Cuba can't control the fuel, right? So you're swapping one for the other, but you're saying that governments shouldn't be allowed to control industry. But you're controlling industry, right? You're controlling industry. But you're saying they shouldn't, but you are.
Lived in extreme poverty. 88% of the people live in extreme poverty. The government will not allow any kind of capitalism in to bring these people up, to bring the quality of life up. How many thousands and thousands of their own people has that government killed? We're trying to strangle out a government here. And yes, there's going to be there's going to be some negative impacts of that, like you just described. That's fair. But how many people have died because of the government in power?
I interviewed.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't punish human beings. There should be human dignity and human respect of human life, right? There should be this respect of human life, even if we don't agree with the people's politics. But we should never penalize or punish regular people that are trying to do their best to survive, right? We shouldn't penalize the regular people in any country ever, right? And especially not in international law. And if we want to be supporters and lovers of civil rights, we shouldn't do this, right?
The number 3 guy in Cuba. I will let you have the interview. You can air the entire thing. He said Cuban nationals, Americans are welcome to invest in Cuba. He said they're open to in a holistic negotiation compensating Americans for property that was seized during the revolution.
Well, they're capitulating now, right?
What they want? No, they offered that in the 1960s. The United States refused it because we thought we were going to do regime change. So why take a deal if we're just going to do regime change?
Well,
we didn't overthrow the government. We failed over and over and over. We tried to assassinate Fidel Castro, like a dozen plus times. We tried an invasion, Bay of Pigs. It didn't work. Every other country, Italy, France, Spain, they all took compensation for what was nationalized. So they're saying you can invest here.
So he said you could basically, if you want, you can show the whole video of him interviewing doctors and healthcare workers in, how can I say, in Cuba. But will they air it? Will Newsmax edit such a story? I doubt it, right? I very much doubt it.
We will compensate you for what was nationalized. All we're asking is that you lift the sanctions and leave us alone. Why
leave the regime alone?
Leave Cuba alone.
Leave the regime alone and let the people continue to suffer. I mean, did you see the people there? The misery of the people that live in that country under these a-holes? It's horrific.
The misery is like unspeakable.
Unspeakable.
It is unspeakable.
Been that way for a long time.
It's a lot worse. It's the people who were there in December and people who obviously live there telling me like,
it's a crazy world.
Noticeably worse. You know how you have people like starvation and homelessness wasn't really a thing. Like there was poverty. It wasn't like
extreme
rich
poverty.
Country.
Yeah.
But even a few months ago,
90% of the people live under $2 a day. I mean, that's nobody in America lives under $2 a day. Not a single person. I gotta leave it there. I really do. You're a good sport for coming on, Ryan Grim from Dropside News.
You got it.
Good to see you. The left continues to prioritize protecting illegals, no matter how atrocious the crimes. We're also going to explain this video.
There he goes. Can't help themselves, right? The right wing can't help themselves. They gotta always attack the point of view where you want to help people, where you want to help human beings, where you don't want to see pain and where you don't want to see people suffering, right? You don't want to see unnecessarily human suffering, right? Especially suffering that could be avoided, right? Especially suffering that could be avoided. First, the United States cut off the oil from Venezuela. Then they cut off the oil from Mexico. And they told every country you're not allowed to send oil to Cuba. And so countries had to make a choice. Lose the United States as a trading partner or, right? You had to make a choice. Lose the United States as a trading partner or lose Cuba as a trading partner. The United States is a lot larger. They can make more money, less rules, less restrictions. So which one will most countries pick? Most chances are they're going to pick trading with the United States and following the United States rules, because the United States has been known to retaliate and go after those entities that oppose them or make any comments that they don't like, right? So which one would they pick? We know which one they'll pick, right? The United States will pick who they want to pick, right? So there's rumors that right? There's basically rumors that there's basically big rumors of lost my train of thought, sorry. That there's going to be a ground invasion, that there's possibly going to be a ground invasion in Iran because Saudi Arabia seems to be wanting for the United States to take advantage of this, and they want the United States to take full advantage, right? So the Trump administration quietly has prohibited ICE agents from wearing masks at the airport, right? Quietly, they changed the rules. And so why is it okay that they wear masks in our streets, in our neighborhoods, where we have our children, but it's not okay for them to wear masks at the airport, right? So let's listen to Trump, what he has to say. Oops, sorry. Okay, hold on. Okay, there you go. Man, don't say Sleepy Joe Biden. Don't say Sleepy Joe Biden, because please don't say Sleepy Joe Biden, right? Don't say it. Don't say it, man. Don't say it. Don't say that he's a goon. So Bovino is out, and they're saying he wasn't too unhappy, right? About being fired, right? He wasn't too unhappy about being fired, right? You want to see what Bovino was doing last night? I mean, this was after he was fired. Sipping some champagne, sipping some wine. He's partying with friends. So they're saying that he wasn't too sad about being let go by Donald Trump. he wasn't too crazy upset about it, right? So the news keeps hitting, right? The news keeps hitting. This is the new statue that they're putting in the White House. You know this is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, right? Because Donald Trump is saying that he's showing us the statue that he put up at the White House, right? He put up a statue at the White House, right? He put up a statue at the White House, everyone, of Christopher Columbus, and saying that it's now Columbus Day again, and he's gonna celebrate a winner, and he doesn't care what anyone has to say. He doesn't care what anyone has to say, and he's still gonna celebrate a winner because he only supports winners, and Christopher Columbus was a winner, right? Even though we've been proven through historical facts over and over that Christopher Columbus did a lot of heinous things and did a lot of things that people agreed were, how can I say, disagreeable, right? Very disagreeable. These guys are insufferable, right? Okay, let's see. Always upset about something, right? The right wing. Right? Always upset about something new. Right? Man, that's all. Democrats are lost, man. Democrats are lost. That's the problem. That's why Democrats, no one can trust them. It's like, this is the master plan. This is the person you want to run for president. Hear what he has to say. Oh, man. This is bad.
We're the state of Israel. I'm proud to support the state of Israel. I deeply, deeply oppose Bibi.
Do you consider yourself a Zionist?
Do I consider myself a Zionist?
Yes.
I believe, I revere the state of Israel. I'm proud to support the state of Israel. I deeply, deeply oppose Bibi Netanyahu's leadership, his opposition to the two-state solution, and deeply oppose how he is indulging the far right as it relates to what's going on in the West Bank.
Do you regret using the word apartheid to describe Israel?
I do in this context that I said it and I referenced why I used it. A Tom Friedman article in that same sentence where Tom used it in the context of the direction that Bibi is going.
Not the current
and the
state.
concern, correct.
Okay.
And that is a legitimate concern I have that I share with Tom, that direction, if that vision in that direction of the far right that Bibi is indulging, that if they see the full annexation of the West Bank, then that's not something. That's a word you may hear others use.
Do you consider yourself a Zionist?
Do I consider myself a Zionist?
Yes.
I believe
This is what people want. We're going to get another Kamala Harris situation where the whole reason why the Democrats lost was because they stance on war, they stance on Gaza, right? The Democrats studied this and they did a autopsy, right? The Democratic autopsy. And they said the main cause of the Democrats to lose was their stance on Gaza and their stance on Palestinian rights. And the first thing you do is you make a big gaffe like this because you're getting AIPAC money. Like, are you getting AIPAC money? Because a lot of them are getting a lot of money from big donors. Big PACs, big corporate entities. No one wants to support warmongers or people that love war or people that love this type of display, right? I don't understand. Why do you agree to put this out there? Especially considering what's happening right now in Iran. You should might as well have said you support the Iran war and you support Israel being aggressive and annexing the Lebanon, a piece of Lebanon, and that's a big problem, everyone. That's a big problem. That you running for governor, then you're gonna run for president. So Newsom is, most chances are, out of the question, right? We can't have people that are warmongers, that violate their own principles over and over. And people are tired of supporting corporate Democrats that just think about money and corporate interests. We just can't keep supporting these people. And so they keep spinning and blaming each other for why we're at war. We still don't have an answer. There's so much, we're into this for a while. We still don't have an answer. And we just don't have no answers. Double tap on the screen, everyone. Let's break this algorithm. This algorithm doesn't like certain topics that we speak about, and punishes me because they don't like the topics that I speak about, but I'm going to keep speaking about them until they tell me I can't speak about it anymore. Right? I'm a little hard-headed. So let's listen to Trump blaming Hegseth for the war. So is Hegseth the next one to go down? So, I mean, and then they're claiming that they're having negotiations. Right? So there's a big issue, right? It's a big issue because now, once again, they try to bury the Epstein thing, and things keep coming out, keeps popping up over and over. They can't hide it too well, right?
His closest associates and co-conspirators are still covering for him. And I think that is what is so remarkable about this story.
So they're still covering
What
for
were your
him.
overall takeaways from what you saw in this video today? And how do these individuals, the accountant and the lawyer, it always at the end of the day kind of comes down to the accountant and the lawyer, right? What do they say to you, or how do they fit in these operations, particularly given that Mr. Indite is noted for saying, well, I don't know anything about the relationship that much between Epstein and Donald Trump, but he was there for a long time. So help us frame it.
Yeah, I mean, I
They
think
claim
what
they don't
is
know.
remarkable is that
They don't know
even
anything
in
about
death,
the relationship.
his closest associates and co-conspirators are still covering for him. And I think that is what is so remarkable about this story is the network of powerful people and individuals who are in Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's orbit, who even after they committed crimes against over 1,000 women, sexual abuse, financial crimes, that you still have individuals who worked for them for decades who were at the center of the very criminal activity who are claiming they never saw anything and they never saw any misconduct. But I think it's important to understand that both the lawyer and the accountant whose depositions were released today stand to make.
I don't think they claim that they don't know nothing, right? They claim that they don't know nothing, that they don't know anything, right? That's the whole thing. They had the depositions. They did the same thing Clinton did. That he doesn't know anything. He wasn't involved. He don't know what's happening. And he doesn't understand what was happening at all. So think about it. All these people, nobody knew anything. They knew him for years, dealt with him, had emails in between them, had pictures with him, and no one ever saw anything happening. No one saw anything at all suspicious. I mean, maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm the crazy one. But the powerful people that are in charge of these powerful entities are controlling the narrative, controlling the script as to what goes out and what gets out to the average person, right? They're controlling the script and controlling the people and the information, how it flows and what is said and what's not said. And so are they hoping that the story will go away if they don't talk about it a lot? They're trying to wish it away, but it's not going away. People really want to know what's in those files, and especially who was affected directly, right? Everyone wants to know who was affected directly. I appreciate you all for joining me, and we covered a lot of topics, and I'm going to keep it brief tonight, but I hope that the truth comes out. We're still waiting for the truth on Iran. We're still waiting for the truth on Epstein. We're still waiting for the truth on a lot of topics. So hit the share, hit the like button, share it with as many people as possible. It helps the program. It helps get me more views. I've only been having about 400 views of the videos that I've done live. Well, I started out at 10 people. So now 400 views is good, decent for, my goal. But I would love to have turned that into 4 million viewers or 4 million views. So I can keep talking about the topics I talk about. And I can also upgrade my camera and upgrade your live experience. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to see you soon. And this is a crazy world we live in. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of reason, morals, and ethics? Or you're just on the side of money? You'll do anything for money. Which side are you on? Can't pick both. So you got to decide which side are you on. Thank you. Have a good night.